Tiberius Finn. And featuring a live performance by Lady Lettice Blythe of the Barony of Calafia. Me? I'm your announcer, Master Bjorn of the Northern Sea. And here's your host, Master Lettice McBride.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the end of March. We made it. Oh my gosh. Seems like just a year ago we were sitting, oh my gosh, I have to stay in my house for the next 6 weeks. I kind of turned it a little bit longer than we expected to. So thank you for joining us tonight. Just a couple of things. I'll bring Bjorn in right quick. A quick congratulations to all the award recipients from the Caid court this past Saturday. And congratulations to the new Reeves of the Barony of Drybergen. Very exciting time for them. It's called on-the-job training. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's do a quick welcome to our friend Bjorn. And here he comes right now. Hey, Bjorn.
Good evening, sir.
So how are you doing?
I'm not really ready for warm weather yet. I understand that this is March and that's what happens, but I would much rather prefer to, let's just say during the last several months, I've enjoyed the fact that I can wear wool during the show and not regret it almost instantly.
Right. So I was sitting here over the weekend. I was like, what does that sound? Oh, it's the air conditioning turning on. So yes, it's very odd, but I'd much rather have it this way than the other way. So.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yes. So did you watch court on Saturday?
I did. I was there. Got a chance to huzzah with all the folks. Once again, Drybergen is my first home in this kingdom. When I first moved here in 1998, and so very happy for the new Reeve and Rivas. I know they're going to do an amazing job, and also just business as usual. Once again, having awards bestowed on deserving gentles in our kingdom. And all the work that they've done, especially prior to and immediately prior to and post lockdown, continue to try and keep a sense of normalcy in the kingdom, which was so very challenging. We're just really happy that those folks were able to be recognized for all the hard work that they've done here.
Right, and of course, His Majesty had an announcement at the beginning of the court. That's one of the reasons Sir Tiberius is going to be here, just to talk a little bit further about the next few months ahead for the kingdom. So before we get there, I understand you have your standard arts and science highlights.
I do indeed. Now, many folks have already talked about the amazing release of information from France. And to that, I mean, of course, the fact that the Great Museum, the Louvre, has digitized its entire collection. Now, I can't really demonstrate the veracity of this claim because I haven't checked all the millions of things that are in the Louvre. I just know that this is something that has been passed around amongst folks in the SCA pretty much as at the minute we all found out about it. And so I, as the intrepid adventurer that I try to be, went to the website to look for myself. And I have to say that when they say there is English and French, they kind of mean it. What I mean to say is when you go on to the collections portion of the Louvre, and it's going to ask you to look up things in either English or French, there is it says advanced search and filters. So you can go, oh, look, those are words in English. I know those words. But then you click on the first thing that you can think of that would make sense to look at. And under collection, which is an English word, it is Département d'Objets d'Art Moyen Âge de la Renaissance et le Temps Moderne. So it is the Department of Objects of Art for the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and the modern age. Now, we know enough just because of English, share so many things with French, that you probably figured that out. But if you don't really know what furniture means in French, or what exactly Moyen Âge is, then perhaps having your Google Translate out just in case might not hurt. But just looking through the exhibits, looking through the pieces, they are stunning. And in particular, when you have a chance to download some of them, and they show you the time of fabrication, where they came from, what era they come from, and some of the pictures are high res, some of them aren't. It's just kind of a hit or miss now. But the fact that they have the collection online alone is truly phenomenal. So it is just a resource that those of us who have not had the opportunity to go see the Louvre, or those of us who haven't been in some time, or you just can't find that coffee book anymore, this is probably one of the neatest things that could be out. So the second thing we're going to talk about is Taylor and Francis Online. Now, Taylor and Francis Online is a search engine for peer-reviewed journals and articles. And they have some really cool stuff on there. Some of it is website format, and some of it is PDFs. The PDF in particular that I was looking at was an article in Women's History Review. And this is a relatively recent piece as far as scholarship goes. And it is The Sultana and Her Sisters, Black Women in the British Isles Before 1530. So obviously, last month was Black History Month. This month that we are now closing out is Women's History. I thought, what a neat thing to do, and do some research on Taylor and Francis and look up some peer-reviewed articles about something that combines both. And in particular, this article is fantastic. And it's the setup of the website itself is fantastic. You have, just like any other PDF, you have individual templates on one side, and then the main body of the work that you can close up on, you can download it, you can print it, and this is just an amazing article about a time that some people perhaps don't think existed, but it very much did exist. And I could not be more happy that, I mean, that's kind of what we do. We like to do peer review ourselves. Now, I mean, this is something a little more exacting than a lot of us do, but nevertheless, the resources at their disposal are amazing. A lot of it, of course, is modern, naturally, but you can go to the online review and say, I want to look up something about history. I would like to look up something about the arts. I would like to look up something about law. And in that instance, most of it will be modern, but every so often you'll get something thrown in from our time period. And so that is a fantastic resource. The PDF file on the Sultana is also available. I recommend it wholeheartedly. And those are the two websites that we were looking at this past week.
That's great. For peer review, I often call that, isn't that what we do in Peerage Council? We just kind of talk about each other.
We wish we do. I'd like to think most of us can. I mean, beyond drinking and the potluck. I'm sure there's some of that going on in peer review articles as well.
Sure. Not. Anyway, so who do we have as our first guest this evening?
Oh my, we have a brave and puissant gentleman who will be joining us. And I say brave because he took on a job that I think is one of the most challenging anywhere in the SCA. He is our Kingdom Seneschal of Caid, and it is a very good person and a friend, Sir Tiberius Finn.
All right, so let's much ado, let's get him on. And he's going to be here right about now. Hey, Tiberius, how are you?
Here we go. I'm doing well, and thank you, Bjorn. Yeah, I can't wait to see you in person again when we get to do that. So,
do y'all want a hug? I mean,
I wish we could.
That would be awesome. One shot down, baby.
Almost there. Almost there.
So, hey, thanks for joining us this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. It's what you guys have been doing the last year with creating this environment to share every Monday with the Kingdom and bring on different people has been really helpful for everyone, and including myself. And I just want to say thank you. I know we're coming up on almost an anniversary, it feels like, right? So
That was last week. Thanks for
oh my gosh. There we go. So it's thank you so much for providing this. It's been great, and I'm glad that you guys are able to, bring us together at least once a week.
Well, thank you. We've had the opportunity to meet a lot of really cool people and had some amazing performances. It's been as much of an enjoyment for Bjorn and I as hopefully the people watching the show.
That's great.
I want to come back to talking about you, but first, there was an announcement at the top of court yesterday that I think people are interested about. So can you just do a recap on that?
Yeah, and not the AOAs, right?
No, yeah, exactly.
So right now, as we're all aware, the SCA is closed down, and so what we're doing is I had an announcement yesterday in the Facebook group, which followed up from the announcement from court. And so right now, what's happening is we are still in a holding pattern from the board of directors, where they have asked that we don't have events until May 31st, June 1st. So we are currently not having any practices, gatherings, events in person. That being said, though, we are planning for when the reopen may happen, right? So in April, there will be a board of directors meeting, which has been live the last few ones. So if you want to watch those, you can. And they will most likely share some kind of announcement about what the future of the SCA is going to be past that date. When we are aware of what that will be, then we can adjust to start planning for what that will be, whether it's going to be a longer hold or reopening. That being said, right now, Baroness Sarn, our Kingdom scheduler, she has been working with all the different territories to prepare a schedule for events going on for the rest of 2021. If that does happen, so we'll of course have our required Kingdom events and then territorial events as well. We've been preparing for this since I kind of stepped up in January. So we've been having monthly meetings with the officers, talking about different things, what a post-COVID SCA is going to look like. We have a COVID committee that's been together. We're gathering, and we're going to form some Kingdom guidelines that are going to have some rules and what it's going to look like for practices, gatherings, events, and so on. And we've got some really cool things that I think are going to help to create a safe and inviting environment. As everybody's getting vaccines, which is great to see, there's still going to be a lot of things we're going to want to make sure that are in place so everybody is safe and we can have an environment where people do want to hang out and still have a good time and enjoy the club. So the best thing I can say right now is just kind of stay tuned. And once we know more, then we'll share more. But we are working to make sure that we can kind of hit the ground and go forward and not go, oh my gosh, we are working on different things. Every facet, every officer has been working hard. We're all feeling it. Like I know it's a year now at this point. Our last event was Crown last year. So it's been a lot of meetings and talking and figuring out what it's going to look like. But I think we're going to be in the best boat we can be in going forward. So if anybody has any questions or concerns, or they're worried, or they're confused, use the email, send us all email, shoot me a message. I'm also on Facebook too, so you can hit me up. I'm happy to help. My phone number is on the Kingdom website too, so if you want to call, that we can help out. So there we go.
Okay, so one of my questions is, during court on Saturday, they tossed around a couple of dates that y'all are looking at, basically getting us back on track of the standing calendar. So like the second Saturday of July would be Coronation, and maybe Queen's Champion after that, and Crown in September. Is that still in flux, even though those dates were kind of tossed out?
So that's what we're hoping we can do. If the SCA is allowed to reopen June 1st, but we'd like to go back to the July Coronation schedule, then September Crown. So which would be very nice to have happen. So if that is what happens, that's currently what we're planning for. So
and I would think part of the challenges is not only how the board of directors give guidance, but dealing with not only California and Southern California guidance on how many people can be in an event, but we have to look at Vegas and Western Seas and trying to juggle all that around. So I'm I'm sure we need a lot of patience for y'all to kind of wrap it around, and because that's everything is beyond your control on those.
This is going to be a community effort. Everybody's going to have to do their part, and I know we all have a lot of passionate opinions. The last year has shown that, right? And so we want. I know it's like the diplomatic way to put that, right? So, but we want to be able to make sure that Alexander last year had put out a kind of a rule that was, we're going to set our kingdom to whatever the highest level is in any county within the kingdom, whether it's Hawaii, Nevada, California, and that's something that we're going to keep to. I think that's a good way to make sure that everybody can kind of have an opportunity, and we can kind of gauge from there. But it is going to be it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of patience. Events are going to be different for a while. There's just going to be stuff that's going to be different. We're going to have to really kind of stay tuned to the communication that what's going to go on. We're going to be doing our best. We've improved our communication channels on the back end, so we're able to, once Kingdom knows, that we can share to the territories and go from there and all of that. So with social media, the newsletter, the website, all of that, we're going to have a place where people can go to find out what's going on. So,
and I would think there may even, I don't know nothing, but I think
Sure.
there even the possibilities of caps on the number of people at attendance for attendance numbers at the beginning that we might have to deal with.
That's certainly something that's on the table, right? And so there's going to be a handful of things. People are wondering, what are we going to do about masks? What are we going to do about caps on events? So we're exploring a number of things. Pre-registration for events is something that we're looking at, right? That might be a way to help with the number caps and different things there. So we're definitely looking at a number of things, and it's not just going to be SCA rules that we're going to. We're going to be going to county, state, local. So if we can't get permits for certain things, we're going to have to adjust and be understanding of that. Just because we, as a club, are allowed to do that doesn't mean that the place that we practice at is going to be able to do that. So being aware of what an SCA sanctioned event versus, you're just getting together in your backyard is a little bit different. So,
Right. And all of this is a dramatic underscore for why I never want to be a seneschal. But because it's not only people that want to come to events, as you are in this situation, there's people that are out there that have been invited to be elevated in, whether it's a Pelican or Laurel, or we invited Western Seas gentlemen tonight, that you have your vigils you're looking to schedule, you have your actual ceremonies you're looking to schedule. So there's a lot of factors to weigh and variables to address when y'all are trying to put this together. So
I will say on that, it was amusing when the Pelicans had their Pelican meeting a little bit ago, which I haven't been able to go to because I'm still in the been asked stage. I got a bunch of messages that were like, "What are you having your vigil and thing?" And it's just like, that's a great question, And on a personal note for me, I think my main thing I want my parents to be able to attend. Because when I did my knighting at 40 year, they had to drive all the way to Victorville. And then it was that 100 degrees in the whole thing. So something a little closer would be nice, So
right.
We'll see.
And my last question on this, because
Yeah, sure. It's okay.
The last thing is, I'm sure, well, I'm not going to say that perhaps one of the options of looking these events is looking at maybe doing them outdoors instead of indoors, if that helps us too, right?
That completely right. And so we're definitely going to be creative with how we're doing things. The club is the longest running reenactment costume club that is around, right? We've been around before Ren fairs and before cosplay and all these things. And so, it's because we have a set of rules that we follow in our guidelines, and there's volunteers that make it all happen. So, and because we are creative, that's how we can do these things. It's fascinating too to look at what all the other kingdoms are doing as well. We're not the only ones that are dealing with this. Literally across the whole world, everybody's trying to figure out what to have happen, and we're definitely communicating on that level as well. So it's good that we can kind of share notes on what different kingdoms maybe on the East Coast or in the Pacific Northwest are doing, so that we can figure out the best way to address those kind of things. We had a big meeting with the known world seneschals a couple of weeks ago and went over what different kingdoms are doing. We were to talk with the board of directors and kind of get some thoughts and feelings on, hey, here's how we're feeling, what's going on there. And I know you and I have both done society jobs, so we understand that kind of like kingdom anthropology on how that all works. But man, listening to other seneschals share what's happening right now in their kingdoms has been a completely different experience. And I obviously I'm representing Caid in this manner, but listening to the other seneschals share what's going on with theirs, it is a unprecedented time for the SCA.
All right. Well, my advice is just find out what Hatenville's doing and do the opposite. Anyway,
wow, man, that's the Book of Grudges there, right? So there we go.
So, okay, let's put that past. And
Sure.
I appreciate that information. I'm sure people do too. If there's any questions you may have, feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll pick and choose. But anyway, so let's find out a little bit more about you too. So, how long have you been in the SCA?
I've been in the SCA since 2008.
Wow.
I know, right? My first event was Patrol War, and we started out as Fringy Pirates. So my first couple wars were dressing up in an awesome pirate garb we got from Pleasure Ren Fair, and went to Potrero and hung out and walked around and had a wonderful time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
As you do. So, did armored combat was what first drew you in, or?
So, interestingly enough, I found the SCA through tabletop gaming. So, I mean, who would have guessed with everything behind me, right? But the captain who brought us in, because we were a pirate household, we were playing miniature games at the game store, and he came back from the Monday, because from the study at war, so our Monday league was there, and he kind of flopped himself on the table, and he just looked wrecked, like how you are after war. And we're like, man, where were you? And he was like, oh, I just came from war. And so my buddy George and I were like, tell us what this is. And so he told us all about war and how it all goes. And so we're like, oh man, we have to come out and do that. And so that after our first year, it was crazy. I mean, like, having not done anything like that before, the armored fighting was crazy. I didn't actually fight until a couple years in. And then it kind of went from there. It's neat how that all fighting didn't originally draw me in. I think it was more of just the experience and the events. I love dressing up and going to different things. So I'm always up for a new adventure, which is what that was. Oh, Game Empire. That's the down here in San Diego. So I used to run a gaming club called the SoCal Beach Thralls. And so we had a whole club there and did all that. And so that was kind of where the Bitter Luck formed up as we were a bunch of people that were doing gaming. So
cool. So offices. I mean, you don't just immediately step into Seneschal. So what was kind of the path to get to where you're at?
So this is funny. And so when I first decided I wanted to do anything in the SCA, what ended up happening was, for the last 10 years, I ran a gaming convention in San Diego called Kingdom Con. It's a big tabletop convention and all of that. And after our first year, we're like, oh my gosh, this would be a great place to have a demo for the SCA. So I went to my first baronial populace meeting in Calafia, and we're there, and I just to go ask permission for a demo, because I didn't really know how any of that worked. And so I went and was like, oh, I'd love to run a demo and do all these things. And they needed somebody to be baronial marshal for armored combat. And I'd been fighting a little bit, and I was like, oh, I can help out and do that. So I raised my hand, and then 2 meetings later, I rose my hand again and then became our social media officer. So I think, and then like 4 meetings later, I was doing our demos. So I think within like 6-7 months, I was like doing 3 different officer positions, that's how that goes, right? And then about a year or 2 later, that was when I ended up stepping up for my society role for social media. So yeah.
The lesson for people watching is just don't go to meetings.
It's funny, right? Because along with all the service side of stuff, I also became Deputy Iron Brigade Commander under Valric pretty quick too. And really that happened because I really wanted to know more about the Iron Brigade, but everything was still on Yahoo groups. And I'm like, bro, I don't even know what Yahoo groups are until you told me at the park. So I'm like, you should make a Facebook group. And he's like, what's that? So I'm like, cool, I'm going to make it and then just make you an admin on it. And then he's like, cool, well, you're going to be a deputy now. And that was how that all formed. And I became our brigade commander for a couple of years, and then Army general for a little bit too, and all of that. So it's kind of, I do it. And the SCA kind of provides that thing, right? Like if you, like, we're a people powered club.
Right.
So if you want to do the thing, we're usually pretty open to that. So.
Well, at this point, I'm going to step out and have Bjorn come in and ask better questions. So here we go.
Okay.
I don't want to alarm you, but since I have moved to Caid, you are right now. Don't read into this. You are the 13th Kingdom Seneschal during my time in this kingdom.
How many years is that?
Well, since 98. So
okay, cool.
It's something that requires some turnover, but especially in the last couple of years, because Ronrick before you and then Mr. Blue Boots before him, it seems as if there's been one major challenge after another for the Kingdom Seneschals. And if you wouldn't mind letting the folks at home know, how much of a balancing act is it between being a contact point between the crown and between the mundane law or city ordinances? How much of that, where is the balance? Is it 50-50?
So that's a good question. And my experience is going to be different than Ronrick's, than Christian's, and everyone else's before then. I've done a majority of my work from this chair, whether it was being a deputy for a Ronrick the last year and then the last 3 coming on 4 months. It's, normally we get to be at events and do all these things and run in-person privy councils and do all this stuff, but it's literally been from this seat where I've been having meetings and answering emails and doing all this stuff. So, and then on top of that, we're dealing with the reopening of a kingdom that's been shut down and a transition of new royals who are also, kind of, it's their first role into this too. And so we're all in it together, Catherine and Panza, they've been wonderful, and they've got a lot of questions about when we can open up and when they can start going, and they've got cool little projects they want to do and everything. So it isn't like we're trying to deal with a king who's trying to run some big party and do some stuff, and we got to get permits and do all this. Right now, we're just trying to get everything back up and running, and so a lot of the questions are a lot of the same questions everyone else has, right? Where it's when can we do coronation? When can we do these things? How can we make it work in a setting that is virtual, but also give appropriate attention to everybody else that's got the things they want to have happen? So it's different, right? Like even going on like this is the first time outside of a meeting with the officers where I've talked as Seneschal. So I definitely had jitters and a little bit of anxiety rolling into this, because I have to speak in a way that doesn't give me 5 minutes to make sure my typos are correct, right? So, yeah.
You're doing an excellent job.
Thanks.
So your consortium, your cadre of the better luck was, did you know that name might be prescient?
That's funny. We're a good group, man. I miss those people so much. Like, we hang out on Discord and do board games or virtual games and everything there. And we were playing a bunch of Valheim lately, right? So
that's the great one. Online, offline, it's a fantastic thing. I'm still working on my Assassin's Creed Valhalla stuff. I'm a little behind. So but to that end, so you, Hammy, Parmenio, did you all basically come up through the fighting ranks about the same time?
So it's interesting, right? Because I know, like, everybody sees the 3 of us because we're the knights and peers, but we've got a whole household of folk that do stuff. Parmenio's wife, Matea, she does a whole bunch of service, and then my consort, Genevieve, and her husband, Mark, I'm gonna forget his SCA name, but they've been taking photos and going to events and doing these things. And then we've got George and Ben and Amanda, and we've got our whole group. It does stuff, and so it's interesting when you bring up Hammy, Parmenio, and myself, and we all came into fighting around kind of the same time. There was a photo that popped up on Memories the other day where it was Parmenio and I kind of at our first practice together, and we're in like the Romani Lamellar with some baseball legs on doing practice and just hitting each other at the park. And we all kind of came around the same time, but at the same time, like our initial group, we started with some YouTube videos, and then Sir Grim and Big John, he did a whole bunch of teaching with all of us, and we'd go over to his place in Dupel, and that kind of got us initially going on. And he taught us a lot of the basics so that we could get going and kind of as a group. And so it's fun that we were able to kind of all come up together as fighters. It was, and then being a peer, you get this, but it was really awkward that like year or two where it was who was going to get knighted first, and then that in between like hat trick of like who's second and third. Our whole household was glad once that was all done. But yeah, it's been a journey, and I'm so thankful to have so many good friends that are they're friends in the club, they're friends in mundane world, and it's just I'm so thankful for the SCA and for the opportunity to have these relationships and to grow with them as a group and then within the club. So,
well, one of the things I love about Calafia is that even though it is definitely a cohesive unit, a super group, if you will, in the SCA, not just Caid, the fact that there are definitely ways that you can express your own individuality within it, but still be a part of the whole, I think is just really what makes it such a wonderful and a fantastic place. And of course, their excellencies are amazing. And I'm just really happy that we have that anchor in the South to keep us from floating off into the Pacific. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I can talk about Calafia forever. I'm born and raised Calafian, right? But I think that one of the cool things that we have, you touched on it, is it's kind of that Potrero problem, is that because we have Potrero and we can't just all camp as the barony, like you get to camp as your warband in your household, and that kind of forms those different little groups, which is neat. So,
but the last thing I wanted to talk with you about is
sure.
One of the things that has been mentioned in chat, and it's happened before when we had the Society Seneschal on, when we had Aronric on, there are some folks that talk about helium hand or in almost a detrimental fashion. I personally think that service is the greatest thing in the SCA. What you have done, what your predecessors have done, every local seneschal, you make it to where the rest of us can do what we do. If it wasn't for the person filling out the forms, making sure that the Signa ordinances were being kept, oh, sorry, we can only have 4-inch deep stakes in this particular park. Okay, this one doesn't allow dogs. This is a dry site, etc. Making sure that the rest of us are able to just go and not really worry about things, letting folks know beforehand. That kind of service, because we are a service organization and a 501(c)(3) organization, it's of paramount importance. It allows the rest of us to get dressed up, or to sing, or to hit our friends with rattan or with rapier. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Helium hand is do it as long as it's something that you feel love to do. And when you need to step back, step back. Obviously, you have not yet felt that need to step back, and we're all the better for it.
Well, it's funny. So, and first off, I agree with a lot of that, right? Where we are a people-powered club, right? And we wouldn't be here without those who came before us and the service they've put in, just across the whole society, right? Like that we started out in Northern California, and now we're all across the world, and it's because of people's time they've put in to provide this opportunity that we get to kind of be as this medieval club. But helium hand's an interesting thing, and I think on the other side of that, it's more of a how do you gauge burnout, right? And taking a break for yourself. And I don't think I would have been able to do the job that I'm doing now a few years ago. From when I was doing my society role, with social media, I was burnt out toward the end of it. You know, I was spending way more time doing it, and you get to a point where you're like, oh, cool, we've accomplished so much. This is great. But then you see that next peak, and you're like, I know that journey because you understand the role, but you're like, I do not have the energy to do that. And it's okay to make camp, take a break, take a pause, have people that you can talk with on a real level and be like, well, you know, I don't have the energy for this. And if I keep doing it, I'm going to do a poor job. So I need to take a break and step down. And I wasn't planning on coming into this position initially. I had taken a break. I told Roderick I'd be happy to be deputy seneschal for him during all this time. And then at the beginning of last year, it kind of rolled in where this was going to become a reality, and I was going to be the next one to take on the role. And so, and as that happened, then we watched the SCA kind of close down, and then we got into the position that we are now. So I'm glad that I'm in this role, and I get to help kind of usher us through this and then do that. But at the same time, there are so many people that are putting in hours in work, and we're all in this together. And I know I'm in the Kingdom Seneschal role for this thing, but everybody from territories to kingdom level to society is putting in time. So I'm glad I can help do the part that I'm in. And I can't wait till we all can be out there again, because I would rather deal with 4-foot stake issues and 4-inch stakes into the ground than dealing with caps on events, or are we going to do a mask mandate, or what is pure registration going to look like for this stuff, right? Like I have projects that I want to do that aren't ambitious self-serving ones, but more of, which 2021, let's get the club in a place where we can do things in a way that we don't have to like defend ourselves in an awkward way. Let's present the club in if you want to do medieval reenactment and you want to be part of a community and a club that does singing and costuming and fighting, we are the source for that. We've been around longer than everything else, and we're going to be around long after. We have our own history, our own tradition, and it's really cool. Like, and you can nerd out over things from the 80s and the 70s and go, this guy won this tournament and this thing, and you're like, that's Conan, man. Like, how awesome is that? And there aren't many groups that get to have that opportunity, you know? Like, we have our own North American map that has our own kingdoms and breakouts and everything. It's really cool. So Helium Hand, to back on that thing, is a real thing. But I think as long as people understand what they're getting into and they have somebody they can talk to before stepping into a role, that they'll be in a good boat. And I think a big thing that I want to relay on this is if you're getting burned out and you're feeling tired, it's okay to take a break. And it's okay to say, hey, I know my warrant goes for another 6 months, but I'm not feeling it. And as long as you communicate and do that, we are an environment, or we should be an environment where you shouldn't feel shame or guilt about that. And if you don't have the time and energy, we get it. We'll make it happen. Somebody's here to help with that. And if you're feeling like you're burnt out, that's okay. Let's talk, and we'll make sure that it gets done, and it's not on you. Thank you for your service, you know? So.
Absolutely. But, and once again, thank you for your service on this. And I know that taking us through the door back into the resumption of what will hopefully be normalcy eventually, provided we follow all the protocols and we keep everybody safe and healthy. So an SCA populace can be a healthy and thriving populace. I just wanted to thank you for that. And I thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Again, everything you guys are doing. It means a whole bunch. So. Well,
you say that now, but now it's time for our game.
I'm gonna die on this part. Let's do it. Do I get 3 lives and a phone call, right?
So Bjorn, what's the name of the game?
The evening's game for Sir Tiberius is Stuck in the Middle with You.
Oh.
So you're Sir Tiberius. Your first name is everyone seems to know how to spell it because it's a famous middle name of a fictional character, correct?
Yes, it is.
So what I decided to do this evening was I'm going to give you names of celebrities, and you need to tell me if they're using their middle name as their first name.
Oh, cool. Then I'll have a reverse question for you then on this same game after
Okay.
you're done then.
Oh, I don't get
Cool.
scored, but that's fine.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. We'll just do it for a bonus question.
Okay. Brad Pitt. Is Brad his first name?
Oh, I hope so. Is it?
Nope, it's William. His name is William Bradley Pitt.
Oh, that's a weird one. Okay.
Denzel
Billy
Washington.
Brad.
Denzel Washington. Oh man.
Is Denzel his real first name?
I hope it is. That sounds awesome.
It is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Great.
Paul McCartney.
I'm gonna go with no.
That is correct. His first name is James. James Paul McCartney.
James is a good first name.
I know. It goes with your name. So
Oh, there we go. There we go.
how about Tom Hanks?
Oh, where's Meliora? I'm gonna go with no.
And you would be wrong. That is his
Oh,
real
that's
name.
fair. Good for him.
Bruce Willis.
Oh, I think John's his first name, right?
You think wrong, but his first name is actually Walter.
Walt? Oh, I'd go by Bruce too.
But you got that it wasn't his real first name. Let's see.
Yeah.
Garth Brooks.
I don't even think Garth is even his real name at all. So no.
Garth is actually his middle name. His
There we go.
first name is Troyal. Troyaal. Yeah. Can't blame him on that one, right?
Country singers, man, they go.
Keanu Reeves. Is that his first name or not?
Oh, I should know this because he's just a fantastic human being. I'm going to go with yes. That seems like a cool first name.
It is a cool first name. We're almost done.
That's fine.
Will Ferrell.
No.
Right. His first name is John.
There we go. Yeah.
Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, we had the whole Reese's Pieces joke earlier. No.
It is correct. Her first name, that's her third name, actually. Laura Jean Reese Witherspoon is her name.
Like the fifth, right? There you go.
Yeah. Okay, two more.
Okay.
Sean Connery.
Oh,
Sean Connery.
I'm going to go with yes.
And you're wrong. It's Thomas. He was named after his father, actually.
Cool.
No. Yeah, okay. So, and the last one is Kurt Russell.
Oh, interesting. Oh man, his kid's on that new show too. I'm gonna go no.
And you're wrong.
That's fair.
Hey, you only missed 3. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. It's better than I thought I was gonna do.
Okay, so what's your question?
I was gonna say, could you guess my first name? But I think we already went over that, right?
It's Ross.
No, it's not. It's James.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Now, did you choose to go with Ross, or did your family choose for you?
So my dad's name is James or Jay, but his middle name's Hubert. So he goes by Jay. And so I wasn't going to be a James around the house. And so I went by Ross. But my dad always told me that if he knew how I was going to turn up, he would have had my first name be Ross and my middle name be Not, which is his or backside of their family there. So he could have called me Snotty. That was just...
It's good to have goals.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I think that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for your time, for your information that you're sharing, your continued service. And actually, it's good to know that you're there, you're available, and willing to answer any questions that come up, and dealing with all these different variables that need to be kind of locked down in order for us to keep moving forward. So thank you on my behalf, my personal behalf, just for being there and willing to deal with all of this. So.
Thank you. And I'm happy to do it. So let's I want to get out there and be in armor so I can stop sitting in this chair. So.
Have a great rest of your evening. We'll be looking forward to hearing more from your office as we get closer. But again, thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Wow. Stuffed full of information.
Absolutely. He's just a super, super nice young man. And I'm really happy that we have someone so really focused on getting us to where we need to be in a safe and effective manner. And I think he's going to do a heck of a job.
Yeah, I think we have a bumpy ride ahead, but I think we have good people at the steering wheel, working with their majesties. I think it's going to be, we have some fun coming ahead of us now. All righty, so who do we have coming up this evening?
Well, in keeping with the mega calathea thread of the evening, we have a lovely young performer, Lady Lettice Blythe, who's going to be joining us and sharing her bardic gifts. We're very, very fortunate to have her.
All right, well, let's bring her on. She's been patiently waiting. And she'll be right about now. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Doing good. I'm doing good. Like I said, my head's exploding with all the information I just got. So
Yes. It's good to hear the plans going forward, though.
I know it's very exciting times. So you're down in Calathea.
Yes.
Like you were going to say no. So how long have you been in the SCA?
So I started playing around 2000, and I went to Potrero, and I went to May and September. And then after a few years, a friend of mine was like, oh, they do more stuff. there's events and they do art and they do this. And I was like, really? So then I started exploring events, and in one saw people making music and thought that was the most fabulous thing. And learned how to play the recorder so I could join them.
Wow.
Not very well, but I learned how to play it.
So speaking of playing the recorder, how many instruments do you play?
A few.
What are the main instruments that?
I've tried a lot of things. I don't know how many of them I can say well enough that I play them, but I enjoy playing anything, especially with strings. Anything I can get my hands on, I will play.
Cool. So, I mean, if you had to pick your favorite 3 instruments, what would they be?
Well, piano is my primary instrument, so I like the piano, and the harp, I have fallen in love with the harp, and the harpsichord is pretty fun. So those are probably my top 3.
So technically, what's different about playing a piano versus a harpsichord?
So the piano has hammers.
Mm-hmm.
So you can adjust the action. So if you push harder, it's louder. And if you push softer, the sound is softer. Whereas with the harpsichord, it plucks the strings. So you get that kind of that different sound because it's being plucked. The harpsichord that I'm going to be playing has 2 strings for each note, and you can adjust it. If you want it softer, you could push the lever. So it just does one of those. But that's one of the differences.
And I know because I saw when we were setting up, your harpsichord has, instead of white and black keys, it has black and white keys.
Oh, yeah. And I wish I could call it mine. It's on long-term extended loan from Master Samuel Piper, so I have to say thank you. But yeah, it's fun. It has these black keys and then the white are on the top. And it doesn't change the sound. It just kind of, I guess I'm tickling the ebonies.
So when you perform, are you normally performing original pieces, or are you playing other pieces of music?
No, I really enjoy period pieces. There's a connection that I get, and when I have my druthers, I play songs from the first one is going to be Sellinger's Round from William Byrd, which is about 1580, and it's variations. There are 9 of them, but I have whittled it down to my favorite 4, so it's not quite as long.
Well, great. Well, since you've introduced the first piece, let's go ahead and the floor is yours.
All right, sorry. One sec as I move.
All right. Wow, that was awesome. So before we move to the next piece, so playing the harpsichord, since the mechanics are different, is the tactile response from playing the keys different than how you playing a piano?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's very, very, very crisp action to it. Yes.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
well, fascinating. I'm the first person I've talked to that played a harpsichord, so I've always had some of these questions.
You should try it.
Well, we have one in the front room, not a harpsichord. We have a piano, and I barely play it. As you heard my earlier before the show, my daughter plays.
Yes, your daughter. Yes, she's very talented.
Well, thank you. I tend to think so. So, tell us about the second piece you're going to play.
The second piece is fascinating to me because it's the earliest song that we have complete notes and words and rhythms to. We have fragments, but this one is the Song of Seikilos, and it was from about the 1st century. Yeah.
All right, so I'll turn the floor over to you.
Okay. And the words are touching. It's, while you live, shine, don't suffer anything at all. Life exists only for a short while, and time demands its toll. But there it is.
Wow, that was lovely. Oh my gosh, your voice and the playing, it's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring Bjorn in. Hey, Bjorn.
Well, that's that the still that was found on in Turkey.
Yes.
Is it's almost like a musical Rosetta Stone. It's such a fascinating piece, and to hear it played, it's just phenomenal, and it's one of my favorite pieces in sort of the Phrygian mode, and you did an exquisite job. It was beautiful.
I love that song. Thank you. I'm glad it resonates. Thank you.
It was wonderful. So wonderful. I look forward to the time we could be in an event together and hear this in person. You have to bring the harpsichord, though.
Same,
right?
so much same.
But it's a pleasure to meet you. I don't think our paths ever had really crossed during all this time.
No,
I'm usually
I appreciate. Sorry.
I'm usually out fighting and stuff, but that's okay. But no, that was gorgeous. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your skill and your talent. Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
Thank you for inviting me.
All righty. Well, you have a great rest of your evening, and hopefully we'll see you sometime in person soon. Thank you.
Yes.
We will sing together again.
Yes, choir. Woo!
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, he's never asked me to sing with him. Just saying. Anyway, we'll see you later. Wow, that was incredible.
She's a truly talented young lady, and she, in much the same way Tiberius sort of just spontaneously creates um, a certain feeling around him. Lettice does the same thing. She just sort of, she's one of those young ladies that you're going to an event or you're going to a weekend location, and you'll see her underneath one of the pavilions, and then you're just as you're almost moving out of earshot, all of a sudden there'll be a spontaneous madrigal being sung over in the corner. And of course, me being me, I'm like, I'm going to steer over there because it's just very knowledgeable and just a really fun person, and just another one of those wonderful people that Potrero brought to us.
Right. I see a reoccurring theme.
Mhm.
I would, serene, I think, is the word that comes to mind on the performance and her presence. Very nice. What we need in these times. Well, that's the end of our show this week. I felt like I got a lot of good information. Kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train. And looking forward to what lies ahead. So for next week, we're working with someone trying to get them to commit. It'll be very interesting if we do it, but I don't want to put their name out there until we have them sign on the contract. So stay tuned and watch out for the announcement for that. And same is true on the Bardic side. Is that correct?
That is correct. We are have a couple of folks. It's more of a logistics thing, and there are still so many people that we have yet to hear before I start swooping in and grabbing folks that have been with us a couple times before. I want to see how many more times we can just show the diversity of the performing arts in the SCA. So I'm still working on it.
Right. So thank you everyone for watching the show tonight. I appreciate it. And again, Bjorn, thank you for showing up and being part of it.
Camera's right there in my room. I can't really. It's right there.
That's true. So thank you. It's good to see you, my friend.
And as you.
And everyone else, thank you very much. And don't forget to join us next week when once again we'll be live from Caid. See you then.